So I'm happy today to present the results of a joint work with Julien Clément about decision diagrams. So decision diagrams are an important data structures for in the context of verification, for example, or of logical circuits synthesis. But today, during this talk, we will discuss about the combinatorics underlying the decision diagrams. So decision diagram is a data structure representing a Boolean function. So in the rest of the talk, my Boolean function will be in k variables. And so the binary decision diagram is some kind of compact representation of f of the function, allowing to evaluate it efficiently. On the right here, you see decision diagrams in for a function in 4 variables. And if you want to evaluate the function, you take the root of the graph. Here it's x4, and if it is, for example, evaluated to false, then you follow the dotted edge and you reach this substructure rooted at x3. If you evaluate x3 at true, then you reach this node. And finally, if x2 is evaluated to true, you obtain false. So whatever the value of x1 is, under this valuation, the function computes false. Okay, so the efficiency of the evaluation of the function is based on some kind of divide and conquer principle. The context of decision diagrams has been extensively studied because of the application, especially in verification. And Wegener in 2000 presented a nice monography about decision diagrams. And later, Knuth in 2011 dedicated a special section of the volume 4 of the Art of Computer Programming for decision diagrams. And especially, he mentioned many interesting results about the combinatorics of these structures. And in the rest of the talk, we will focus on reduced order binary decision diagrams. So what means ordered? Order means that if you take a path from the root to one of the constants of the DAG, directed acyclic graph, then the variables are always ordered in the same way. So here the indices of the variables are going from 4 to 1 and are always decreasing. And the fact that it is reduced means that you have now 2 occurrences of the same substructure in the decision diagram. Okay, and so we are interested in the combinatorics of this data structure. And the first motivation of this talk is related to a paper by Newton and Werner 2 years ago that were interested in the worst case size of ROBDDs for a given function, for function of a given number of variables. So, for example, they were interested in the distribution of the ROBDD size of function of 4 variables here, and they obtained complete and exact distribution of the ROBDD size for the function. So, for example, here we can see that there are approximately 22,000 of functions that have a ROBDD of size 10, and the larger ROBDDs for functions in 4 variables are of size 11. Recall that the number of functions is doubly exponential. So the number of functions in 4 variables is around 65,000. The way they obtain this result is by an exhaustive computation of all ROBDDs. And so, due to the doubly exponential growth, they were not able to obtain an exact the exact distribution for functions with larger number of variables. But for functions with 5 to 10 variables, they try to obtain an extrapolation of the distribution by doing some kind of uniform random sampling of function, then computing their ROBDDs to reach the size of the ROBDDs. And for example, here you get the two plots they obtain for functions with 9 variables and with 10 variables. Each time you see a point means that they were able to obtain ROBDD, at least one ROBDD. But as you can see, there are many ranges of the ROBDD sizes that they were not able to sample any function of with ROBDDs in these ranges. So my first goal is to be able to compute exactly the distribution of the ROBDD size for functions with larger number of variables than 4. And then I would like to be able to sample functions with small ROBDDs. So for example, if you ask me to sample ROBDDs of size 40 for 9 variables, I would like to be able to sample such function uniformly at random. And why is this important? Because we know that there are interesting Boolean functions with small ROBDDs. For example, if you are interested in the majority function, in 10 variables, we know that the size of the ROBD is 32. So the majority function is somewhere here. So my goal is to be able to reach such kind of functions. Okay, so let me start with some preliminaries. Of course, I will not be able to do it exhaustively like Newton and Werner did, because I will not be able to obtain better results than them exhaustively. So I have to take another point of view. So just to formalize, what is a ROBDD? So the decision tree of a function is a data structure that is almost the truth table of the function. Here you have something like, it is a representation of the truth table seen as a tree that allows to evaluate the function efficiently also. And the decision diagram, the ROBDD, is obtained through the compaction of the decision tree using two rules. The first rule says that if a node has two identical children, then the node is removed. For example, here, x1 has twice the same child, true and true. So in the ROBDD, the node x1 disappears. And the second rule says that if you have twice the same substructure in the decision tree, then you just keep one of them and the second is removed and replaced by a pointer to the first one. So for example, here you have x1 pointing to false and to true. It is the left subtree of this x2, but it is also the right subtree of this x2. So it appears, for example, here and here, and finally we just keep one occurrence in the ROBDD. This set of two rules are confluent. So whatever the order you use them, if you are using them while it is possible, then you will obtain always the same ROBDD. So the ROBDD is somehow a canonical representation. Okay, but in order to obtain a deterministic compaction, I will see my decision tree as an order tree. So I have a left subtree with the dotted edge and a right subtree with the solid edge. And so using this order tree, I can traverse it using a post-order traversal. And so I will apply my compaction through a post-order traversal of the decision tree. And I obtain this structure that is exactly the same as the one I presented before, but just the layout is a bit different. And I have two colors of pointers. Either I have a black pointer meaning that the structure here is seen as the first time as the right child of this X tree, and I have red pointers when I point to a substructure that have been already seen during the traversal of the tree. And now my goal is to suppress these red pointers, and then I get this binary tree structure that is the spine of the ROBDD. And my goal is to define an equivalence relation for ROBDDs according to their spines. Okay, and if I am able to do this, if I am able also to count how many functions are related to a given spine, I will be able to count the to enumerate the function according to their spines, and we are able to do this. So, for example, focus on this node x2. I have to define two pointers. The first pointer here must point to something that has already been seen, and that is either that is at a level deeper than x2. So it could be this x1 or this true or this false. So for the left pointer, I have three possibilities. For the right pointer, it remains two possibilities because I cannot point twice to the same structure. Okay, so I have 6 possibilities, but in fact, when I am visiting this node, I have already built a substructure rooted at x2, and my new x2 must be different, so I must remove one possibility, that is this one. So finally, the number of possibilities of these two red pointers here is 5. Using this strategy, I can compute that the number of ROBDDs having this spine, this black spine, is exactly 300. And in fact, I can formalize this ID, and I can prove the correctness of this computation. So my first result is an equivalence relation between ROBDDs and spines that allows me to count, still to count the number of functions. But in fact, as you have seen in my previous slide, the structure of the, if I am interested in the pointers here of the right substructure, the structure of the leftmost part of the DAG is not important. I just have to recall how many nodes are at each level. And so I have a second equivalence relation from spine to what I call black box spines or pool spines. And here again, I have a gain in complexity. If you put all together, I obtain an algorithm to enumerate all Boolean functions. And in fact, the complexity of this algorithm is something like 2 to the k squared times a constant here. So this is big, of course, but it must be put in front of the state space of my program that is doubly exponential. So in fact, my result is some kind of logarithmic in the state space of my problem. So in practice, we are now able to obtain the exact distribution of the function up to 9 variables. So here, for example, I have plotted my distribution in a logarithmic scale. And now I am able to know exactly how many ROBDDs, for example, of size 40 I have. There are around 2 to the 170. Okay, and now using this recursive approach, I am able to adapt the classical recursive generation in order to sample uniformly a ROBDD of a given size. Okay. In fact, my approach is the adaptation must be dynamic. And why it must be dynamic? This is because when you are constructing substructure, you must recall what you have already constructed. So you can not compute the left substructure and the right substructure independently. The post-order traversal is still important. So you compute the first left substructure, and then the right one is dependent on what you have already constructed, because you cannot construct twice the same structure in our ROBDD. Finally, we prove that this combinatorial approach we have developed to enumerate ROBDDs adapts very well for other classes of decision diagrams. So either subclasses of function, if you are interested only in function with essential variables, you can adapt our algorithm and our counting approach. But if you are interested in other families of decision diagrams like OBDDs that are not reduced, or quasi-reduced BDDs, or zero-suppressed BDDs, all these subclasses of BDDs have different compaction rules. But the way what we have developed for ROBDDs can be adapted to other kind of compaction rules. And finally, I will finish with this open question. So there is this class of spines that I discussed just before. We still are not able to define exactly which are valid spines. So, for example, you can give me some spines whose that are encoding 0 ROBDDs, and I have no ID to recognize these spines. So when I am doing my algorithm, when I obtain such kind of spine with 0 ROBDDs, I reject them, but I have done some computation in order to see that these spines are not interesting. So an improvement of the approach would be to be able to characterize the valid spines that encode some ROBDDs. So I'm okay. Thank you.